Welcome to High Point University's How to Land That Job series, part of HPU's commitment to fostering life skills and preparing students to render value in the global marketplace. Today's episode features Larry Quinn, former National Sales Training Manager at Xerox and HPU sales professional in residence. So as we're here today, we are talking about how to nail that interview and get the dream job that we're all looking for. So Professor Quinn, the first question that I have for you is that I would love to know your thoughts on how to have a successful job interview and how to get that dream job. Can you share what qualities that you look for in qualified candidates?
I'd love to. This is such an important topic at all phases in life. But particularly for those of us here at the university, students who are about to step out from what has been the most impactful stage of their life into the beginning of a career that should be extraordinary. Presumably, that step will be one that's hard won. It'll be one that's taken an awful long time to arrange and influence people who will want to talk to you. But finally, it's one where the risk is very, very high of failure, of course, for the interview person, but also for the buyer. If she interviews and accepts a candidate who isn't exactly what she pretended to be in the interview, the results for her and her company could be disastrous. So the risk is very high, the stakes are very high on both sides of the table in a job interview. It's very much like a first call on an important buyer in a sales situation, and that's why I love talking about it. In the selling program here, we talk an awful lot about 5 ways to prepare for an initial sales call, and we practice and practice and practice. Because you see, that initial sales call is a golden opportunity. That initial job interview is a golden opportunity. You prepare weeks for that. And you could blow it in the first 10 minutes. Oh my. And so our goal is to go into this first meeting and make such an impression, distinguish ourselves so much that the other person will say, oh my, that is an extraordinary person. And she spoke to me, I understood what she said, and I can see the value in it for me of having her work on our team. Actually, I love talking to her. So yes, we're going to go the next step with you. Yes, I'd like to talk more about buying your product. And so in the selling program, we talk about how a professional prepares herself long in advance, months in advance at High Point University, 2 and 3 years in advance in the selling program. And we focus on 5 areas. The first is preparing yourself with an introspective view and a positive view of yourself. The second is preparing your attitude towards other people and towards life. The third is your appearance when you go in for that first sales call, when you go in for that all-important first job interview. The fourth is your actions, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And finally, your words. If a professional puts together a strategy that includes perfecting those 5 areas, she's very likely to do better than the average professional in either a sales call or a job interview. So let's talk about them.
So one of the things you mentioned is providing value for yourself and how you're able to market yourself. And I think that is something that is so important when going into an interview, is being able to tell them what you're able to offer them, not necessarily what they're able to offer you. Could you touch upon that?
Exactly. And this is the basis for the whole rest of the interview. How you feel about yourself before you walk in. How you feel about yourself will shape the way others feel about you while you're talking, and it can make all the difference in how you interview. And so a professional will spend a lifetime preparing herself to have a healthy self-image, Not looking back at the failures from yesterday, not looking back at your fears about what might happen in the next 20 minutes, but being comfortable in yourself and realizing that you're a good woman, that you're a good man. And in fact, I've trained a long time to get as far as I've gotten. I've worked hard at High Point University. I've worked hard in my career. I'm valuable, and I'm also a good person. And I've prepared myself by looking up your background on LinkedIn, and I've talked to others who know you. And I like the kind of person you are. And so when I come into the room, it's not, here I am. It's rather, oh, there you are. It's so nice to see you, Sloan. I have to ask you, I heard you're a twin. Is that true? Are you a twin?
That is.
I am too. And right away, I like you. The warmth has started to open between us, and you might just relax a little bit. And now that'll affect how you hear what I say. So there are ways to perfect how you feel about yourself, and it's so important to do. Whether you're going into combat in the military, or you're going through a serious crisis in your life, or getting ready for this huge step. It's important that you take time, as I say, to start the day out and realize who you aren't and how this is not the end of the world today. Secondly, that you want to hear other people, you like other people, and you're only going to look to the future, not to the past. And if you can do that easily, you're blessed. Most people can't. And so it's important that you find books, podcasts, if you find streaming services that can remind you as you're jogging about what's really important in life, and how you should divest yourself of all the troubles that everybody in the world is carrying. You're going to distinguish yourself by caring more about the other person than you.
Absolutely. And something that I think is so important as well is being able to talk about yourself, not only in the light of the conversation, but also be able to talk about your achievements. But one of the things that I think I struggle with, and something that I need to work on as well, is how are you able to balance being able to brag about yourself a little bit, but also share those qualities and still stay humble and be able to kind of mark yourself as that perfect position.
That's such a great, I see a word picture as you're talking. An idea that I have, a thought that you might have in the back of your mind as you walk in for this extraordinarily important first job interview, is that I am a valuable resource that I know could help your company tremendously. My job today is to help you see what I know about myself, but I'm determined to help you and your company succeed, and I'm one of the best candidates you could have for that. An example, you suspect you have a serious illness. And so you seek out a doctor and you finally get an appointment. You go in and you're waiting the 35, or in my case, 55 minutes for her to come into the room. You're sitting on that paper bench that you're sitting there. And finally she comes into the room. Now, she doesn't come into the room. You don't want her to come in and talk down at you like you're nobody special, as she's important and you're not. And you don't want her to come in and flatter you and listen and love everything you're saying. You want an expert to come in and to be empathetic, to be listening, to be sincerely concerned about the problem you have, and be confident that she's worked long and hard to be a professional, and she is the best person you could be talking to right now. And there's a diploma on the wall that you've been looking at to prove it. So she's confident in herself, she's focused on you, and she's riveted on every word you say so that she can dig deeper into what your needs are. And so to get ready to explain things to a person on the other side, I think it's that posture of who you are and who she is and what your focus is. It's on her, and you're a valuable resource, and it begins by listening, asking questions and listening.
Absolutely. And with that being said, Professor Quinn, how would you deal with anxiety and nerves and preparing for that interview when you are in that position of talking to someone and trying to prove your worth?
There's a funny side to this that I used to tell, and then there's a very serious side to it. We're probably going to shake hands in the initial meeting. Please God, we're past the pandemic and we can touch. So, your hands are a little moist. That's not good, and you're nervous. If you weren't going for the big interview, you wouldn't be that nervous. And so I recommend before you announce yourself to the receptionist, and he says, he'll be with you in a minute. You say, is there a men's room here? And he says, oh, they're right down the hall. You say, I'll be right back. Don't tell him I'm here yet. So you go in the men's room, and the first thing you do is get on your knees and look under the stall doors. Okay, there's nobody in here. Then you turn to the mirror, the wall of sinks in the big mirror, and you yell an Indian war chant, yell, "Ooh!" Then you turn around and see you have all those endorphins going through you. Now you're relaxed. Then you take your rings off and turn the warm water on, soap, and wash your hands. Don't blow dry them. Take towels and dry in between your fingers. Now you're relaxed. Your hands are dry. Now you say to him, would you tell him I'm ready? And he announces you. Now you go in and you go back to that focus you have. Now you focus on him. You're happy, you're warm, and you shake hands. And so it takes thought. An amateur goes up and knocks on the door or says, I'm here for the interview. Could you show me it? No. This is too important. So you have to settle your fears.
Very good. And I think that is very well seen through the Selling Club, and especially when we do practice our handshakes and see that ability to interact and connect at that initial level. I think that is so important.
Isn't it? The handshake is a great topic. There's so many ways a handshake can go wrong. Now you've solved the first one. Your hand is nice and dry. The next couple of seconds, well, what are some of the ways that you have thought in years gone by that a handshake could go wrong? You're introducing your father and mother, say, oh, this is Mr. Smith from some important place. Shake hands with my daughter Sloan. Now, what are you worried about with this touching motion?
The fish handshake. Fearful.
And he's worried you're such a delicate thing. He's liable to give you the
break
claw.
My hand.
So all of that, you could do it 100 different ways wrong. Well, there's a right way to do it. Would you like me to show it to you?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm your father's friend. He brought him home for dinner.
Perfect.
And your mother says, Sloan, come downstairs. I want you to meet Mr. Big.
Oh, boy.
So Mr. Big is waiting there with your father. And he said, oh, Sloan, I've heard so much about you. Hi, I'm Mr. Big. Hold on. So first of all, I'm worried about squeezing your little hand. You're worried about giving me the fish. So don't think about it as a handshake. Think about it as refueling a jet in air. As you know, that's very delicate. And you can't do it too lightly, or the gas tank from the tanker, the hose, won't connect to your tank in your jet. It'll spray gas and you'll become like a Roman candle. So you can't have that. And you can't fly too fast into it or you'll break the hose. And again, that's not good. So first you have to get the tanker driver to extend the hose. So you come up behind him and you say, Air Force 1, 2, 3, this is Navy 678. I'm 500 feet below. And he goes, Roger, Navy 567, I see you. Here comes the gas. And he puts out the thing. Now you open your gas tank, you got a little switch, and it's behind your canopy. And you fly your tank up into the fuse nozzle, delicately but firmly. So you are the tanker, and this is where the gas comes out, right there. Not here, not even, it's right there. And I am the jet, and here's where the gas has to go in. Not here, just there. So first I call you and ask you to extend the gas nozzle by saying, hi, and you have to stick your hand, there's no way you can't. Subliminally, you got to do it. Hi, boom, it's out there. Now, I'm looking at your eyeballs, but I'm flying my airplane right there. This is my airplane. So, hi, beep, 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 bam. And as I see your elbow bend just a tad, then I wrap my fingers around whatever I got. 1, 2, boom. And look at you. See, that's a great handshake. I don't worry about fish or claw or anything. I'm in, okay?
Perfect.
So let's do one more. Oh, hi, Larry Quinn.
How
Beep,
are
beep, beep,
you?
boom,
Sloan Strickler.
bang.
Very nice to meet you.
Great.
Perfect.
Okay, so that's the second step, is
Very
a
good.
firm action, a firm handshake.
So after you have that handshake that you've took so long to prepare, how would you deal and overcome with rejection? I know that is something that is very, very common in the sales world, but also just in life in general. So how would you deal with rejection or something not necessarily going quite your way in an interview?
That's the question. In the best of times, if you win every third, every fourth time, you're probably going to be salesperson of the year. You're going to lose 3 out of 4. If you go into selling as a career, you're asking to endure that risk every single day. Some people in other jobs work at a desk. They don't have a risk once or twice a year. You have it 3 times in the morning, maybe at a lunch, and 3 times in the afternoon. Oh my. So you have to be ready for rejection and failure all day long, and get up in the next morning and have that self-confidence, and I want to give away to you, and that smile on your face with a firm handshake. How do you do that? Well, that's a great question. There's 3 things I think you need to work very, very hard on before you go into the interview, and then if you go into selling as life skills. And one is the self-confidence we talked about, a healthy self-image, and working very, very hard to be a valuable resource. So an expert. No amateur, no impulsive first calls, no winging it. You have to be the very best there is. And you've done that by your education at a fine university. You are the very best there is at your age right now. And third, you have to work on resiliency and the ability to rebound. A lot of athletes have this. They may not have the education, but if they get knocked down, they get back up and they know how to do it over and over and over again. And so, in the interview, with all the preparation in the world and the great handshake, expect that something's going to go wrong. And maybe like the weather person on TV in the 6 o'clock news, when she's drawing on the weather map, see, here's where the front's coming in, and she drops her pointer on the floor on national TV, rather than get nervous and shake, she goes, oh my gosh, can you believe that I did that on TV? And she gets back up happily. The other person, me watching in the living room, I go, oh, I feel good about her. She's relaxed. Mm-hmm. And so resiliency and accepting failure and getting back up, because you're going to fail 3 out of 4 times, and the next one's going to happen in the next interview. And you've got to get back up for the third one and shake hands and be happy. So it's a lesson in life.
Absolutely, and I think that is seen here at High Point when we practice in the International Student Concourse in Cottrell Hall, in the mock interview area, where you can practice your mock interviews and you're being recorded, and so you can look back and see if you are doing those nervous shakes, if you're tapping your foot, if you're saying like an really being able to practice and enhance your interview skills is something so important, I think.
Isn't that a wonderful resource? And you've been in that.
I have.
Your sister has too. What an amazing resource that is. I remember 6-8 years ago, Dr. Cobain had not built that building yet, and he asked, what would it take to make High Point University students distinctive when they get out for the sales recruiting world? Right. And I said, well, they'd have to practice like IBM people do, like Xerox people do, over and over and over again in a facility. He said, could you design that? So I drew it, and he gave it to the engineers, and I couldn't believe it. They built 3 of them right in a row. One's decorated as this, that, and the other environment. So you can do that over and over and over again. And we bring in different interview people who are waiting for you in that office. And so the environment can be different each time you do it. But by the first time you do it, it's intimidating as all get out. Oh, you're scared. I've often had to stand beside somebody and whisper to her, go on in, pretend that's me. The second time, he or she's ready to go in herself. The third time, she comes out and she's grown this much as a woman. She did it. And so it takes that resiliency and sometimes a little coaching. And you're going to fail the first time. Freeze up. You've seen some of your classmates freeze up. Not the second time. And the third time, she refuels her jet right in air.
Absolutely, definitely.
Right.
And talking about environments and different places, even in the International Student Concourse, where we have that airplane. And during some of our sales classes, we're able to practice and enhance our 2-minute drills and our 30-second elevator pitch. And being able to be in that different environment, you may never know where, if you're sitting next to the CEO of your dream job, and you have to be able to start and introduce yourself and know what to say. And I think that's something that's so important and valuable too.
That's right. And from Boston, flying back and forth to Boston, that can happen to you every holiday, twice, up and back. That's another feature that's been put here at High Point University. I've never seen that before, ever. Have you?
I've not.
Never. The first class cabin. So we bring a rolling camera down from the comm school and have a technician filming. You'll sit down and there'll be a senior person sitting already in the seat, and you sit down and you're sitting in your seat still texting somebody, and they say, put away all your devices, we're about ready to take off. And so we take off, and then I look over at you and go, oh, hi, you going to Boston?
I am.
You say, you will. I said, well, wonderful. What do you do for a living?
Well, I'm a student at High Point University.
Oh,
I'm a junior with a finance major.
Oh, I go there all the time. I'm the recruiter for Amazon, and I've been trying to get in there. We want to recruit some of those folks. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? And then we go in, the camera's rolling, and the temptation is, if you're an amateur, to go, wonder what he wants to know. I'm from Boston. He must be from Boston. Maybe we're going to talk about Boston. Instead, we practice, like you know, for 2 or 3 years, an answer that is succinct, it's professional, it's happy, and it's over in 2 minutes. And I understand you have one of those.
I do.
Do you?
I do. Could you mention a few, kind of like the main parts of the drill?
Yes. Yeah, it's divided into 4 Ps, and this is how we memorize it. It takes a month or 2 to write it, but the goal is to make it succinct, not get wordy and go down any blind alleys that the listener may not be interested in, but get all the characteristics and qualities and benefits that you bring to someone packed in there in a short amount of time. And so the first P is personal. It's name, where you're from, and what your current status is, and stop. Then a look down at your lap as though you're not sure what you're going to say, but you know what you're going to say. The second P is professional qualities. And there you've researched yourself, and this is hard to do, saying things about your strengths that your grandmother would say as she pinches your cheek, but you're too humble to say them. And so it takes a month or 2 to get these written. But you mentioned 2 or 3 strengths that you found out are your differentiators, and they're valuable to business. Third P is your proposal. What you're looking for now, what you'd like to do in life, where you'd like to be next. And the 4th P is the parting shot, maybe exchanging information with each other so you can stay in touch later. It'll take a couple of months to do that, and you need a partner to help you write it because you can't write that. It's too personal. And so at the end of 2 or 3 months, you have it written. Now you have to practice it 100 times. Practice it in your bedroom. Get in the car at night in the dark alone and say it to the windshield in the rain with the wipers going so that you can't be thrown off course. Then when somebody says it by chance in a plane ride to Boston, so tell me a little bit about yourself, You can't wait for him to say that. You've been practicing for a year. Oh, tell you a little bit about myself. Well, and you start with the 4 Ps.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that I've practiced and that we really try and get our sales club to practice at High Point as well. One of the things that I always appreciate that you share, not just with us as business students and sales students, but just as people and High Point students, is that no matter what your major is or no matter what you want to pursue in life, you need to be able to sell yourself. And I think that comes hand in hand with the 2-minute drill, unsure of your surroundings or who you will come in contact with. I think that's something that is so important in the world today.
I couldn't agree more. And being here at High Point and hearing it called a life skill, exactly what you said. Isn't it true? Everybody sells. And we've been doing it all our lives. The students here, the workers here, the staff and the professors, we've been selling ourselves our whole lives. And we're pretty good at it. Look, here we are. So you're right. It's a life skill, but it takes practice.
I think that, again, we see it in the sales club as well. And one of the first things about being able to sell yourself is how you present yourself. And I think we practice that every Tuesday at 7 p.m. in Cottrell in the ballroom, and being able to all dress. I don't think there is another business club or club at all at High Point that dresses at night in their business, casual business professional attire to practice that environment, to practice just how you're able to hold yourself.
Isn't it true? People disregard that, particularly in a college environment where you see various dresses all day long, T-shirts or flip-flops or less in the hot weather. But think about it. The way you dress affects how people think about you. If you think about how your impression of someone the first time you see them, don't you expect a little more from someone who's well-dressed than you do from someone who's sloppy? It's human nature. You can't help making an assessment of, does this person have something that's important to me, or is it just somebody casual passing by who isn't the least bit interested in impressing me? So yes, to see students come in with business casual, some wear sport jackets, some even wear ties, at 7 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. Isn't that impressive?
It is.
I agree with you. I think it's great.
I think it's so honorable, and I think that is shown when we have our sales club career fair every fall and every spring, and I think that is a true staple of our club and the sales program at High Point as well.
Yes, doesn't it make you proud?
Absolutely.
For the recruiters to say, some of the biggest names that we all know have come for the first time and then said to me in private, and you've heard them too, I know, I was so impressed. I travel all over the country and go to all the schools. I've never seen anything like this. Now, the campus is beautiful. The students are distinctive. And I'm so proud to be here when that happens. Wow.
Can you touch a little bit on, in the sales club and during the career fair, how we are able to provide them with that concierge experience that also contributes to why they come back every year and why they are so impressed with us during our interviews?
That's another great question. I think it's all in the preparation, like we said, for an interview. Mm-hmm. To us, those of us in the selling club or the officers and the director, I consider that career fair an important event for the students. But for us, it's an interview that we are holding on ourselves for them to judge should they come all the way from Chicago again ever to do this. And so we plan 6 months, sometimes a year in advance. We already have the one for March planned. We plan it down to the details that you would for an important ceremony. And so the venue, the decorations, the gifts, the amenities, the events that we hold for them, the practicing the rollout of each one of the sessions. It's all planned as if they are important guests, not coming to meet, as they do at many colleges, whoever will come up and take a bulletin from their card table. No. We have it in a ballroom, as I say to the students, in church clothes, and we meet them with a handshake that makes them roll their eyes back and go, they stand up a little taller and shake our hand out of respect. Mm-hmm. And they leave saying, I've never seen anything like that. And I'm so proud of us. I feel like a father whose children have just been introduced and somebody says, wow, and that's what we get.
Definitely, and I think being on the other side of things for the first time, being a concierge for Tom James, I was able to see that firsthand. And I think one of the things that he said that they look for the most is your integrity, but also your self-confidence and your courage. Could you touch a little bit about that as well? I think if something that translates from Tom James, which is one of the largest premier clothing companies, how can that translate to any interview or any job?
It's exactly the qualities, and that's a wonderful company because they focus on personal qualities and grooming every new hire. Well, so does GE, and so does IBM, and so do the biggest companies. The impression that we make on Tom James is one that they're looking to make on you. It's focused on you, so they're looking for you to be focused on them. Having the respect to spend a lot of time preparing your look, your actions, your words, and carrying a notebook to take down what they say. All of those are signs of respect that the student shows the recruiter. And some of them leave actually taking notes and tips from how the student showed them it should be done. They get the feeling. And so I've had the GE recruiter come back over and over again. They fly all the way from Wisconsin to see us. The biggest IT hiring people, one in services and one in products, comes all the way from either Florida or the Northeast here. Now they also go to the biggest schools in the country, but they come to High Point University first. And some of them hire large numbers each time they're here because the quality is so consistent. But it's because we practice. No one came with that innate, very few come with that innately.
And I think that is something that as students, we need to be able to understand and appreciate and know that we are presenting ourselves to the recruiter. And with that being said, I think one of the things that I have a question about is how are you able to enhance your exposure in terms of being able to make networks and being able to build your connections, because I think that goes a long, long way in the job workforce.
Oh, so that principle is one that when you finally leave here and get with one of the largest companies in the world, which you undoubtedly will, one of the first things most of them say is you must create exposure for yourself within the company. Now, we've hired you and we've put you among some of the world's brightest, finest talent. Your chore personally is to make yourself known to them, ask for a mentor, greet other people, spread your network and spread your brand. And so that means that your brand is one you're proud of, and so it's always showtime, as we say. In job interviews, on campus and going to class in front of a professor whom you've not met, or when you first get to your new job, all the things we said, self-confidence, focus on them, your appearance, your words, and your actions all day long. This is showtime and for the rest of your life. Absolutely. And when you walk around, and when you walk by, somebody goes, do you know her? That's the Strickler lady. That's Sloan Slicker. Yeah, she's the other twin. Look at her. Isn't that, she's pretty sharp. You should get to know her. That's the brand that you've already built. And I'm so proud when people meet you.
Thank you. Well, with that being said, now, Professor Quinn, I would like to thank you so much for taking this time to talk with me and with the students here about how to crush that interview and how to get that dream job. I would love to continue this conversation a little later. I have my business card right here.
Oh my.
Could we perhaps have a conversation next week, say at noon?
Yes, we could. It would be my honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Quinn. Thank you, guys. And we will open it up to the room for any questions that anyone may have.
Wow. Yes, ma'am.
So throughout your career and throughout all the professions that you've had, what would you say is sort of some of the similarities that you've experienced through them, whether that is in the values that each profession has required, or the skills that each has required of you.
I love that question. I think of all the jobs I've had, and as Sloan mentioned, I started out as a pilot in the Navy. Terribly intimidating, and half the people around me were more scared than I. And I started then, maybe because I'm a twin, sensing their fear and wanting to help them either go through a flight or learn how to escape from a plane. They have an exercise in the Navy where you get in a simulated cockpit. They run it down a rail into a 12-foot swimming pool, turn it upside down, and you're inside the plane, and you have to get out. And they have frogmen there so you won't get hurt. But some people are so scared they can't do it. So a couple times I went up to a friend and I said, come on, Steve, you come on, get in, I'll help you. And it worked. Steve got in and did it. When I came back from flying my tour overseas, they said, please stay in the Navy, we'll give you any job you want. And I said, oh, no, I really have to get out and get a job. They said, well, how about in your last tour, you go back and be an instructor pilot? I said, yes, I will do that. Because that's the rookies who are still scared about everything. So I asked them if I could teach how to fly formation, where you come right up 5 feet wingtip to wingtip and fly. Scary the first time. Oh, my. And then take that flight over to a carrier and land on the carrier. White knuckle fear. And I love doing it because I could do the same thing I did to Steve. I said, come on now, you can do this. Feel my. Well, when I got out in business, I carried the same thing. I wanted to help young salespeople. First of all, I was scared to death and somebody helped me start out. And so when I got moved up in the ranks, I spent my time not at the desk, but in the car with you, talking to you about what a good person you are. And when we came out of the sales call, I never said, now, you know, I got to tell you, you did a great job, but you could have done better. I give you the negatives. Instead, we come out of the call, you've done a terrible job, you did everything but throw up on the desk, and you get in the car and you go, oh God, and I said, I don't want to hear that. Tell me one thing you did well. You go, well, I didn't throw up. I said, no. You got us here on time. Yes, I did. And so we work at one thing at a time. And in college, it's the same thing, only it's better. And so there's so many fears. And if you can turn yourself away to someone else and give them a hand and pick them up, you can teach them to land on a carrier or make a job interview in a scary situation. It's all the same thing. And it's the greatest blessing in the world to be there and to be able to help them. So I'm glad you asked that. Any other questions? Okay, so if you want to know what it takes to be a sales minor, all right, since you asked, I hope you consider taking advantage of the curriculum we have here to learn the life skill of selling. It's a few short courses that are impactful as all get out. One is selling, where we focus on this, using the role play labs and the airplane cutaway. Another one is negotiating. Wait till you take that course. Now, most of you negotiate pretty well. Look, you've gotten everything you wanted all during life at a price you're willing to pay. And you end up at one of the finest universities in the whole world. And those of us who have jobs, same. We negotiated pretty well. Well, if you come to the negotiation class, now things will improve. You students, your dating life will improve because you'll suddenly learn how to overcome objections and handle difficult people and things you don't normally get to do. So I encourage you to enroll in the sales program and then come and see me in my office and we'll work on your handshake and maybe talk you into taking a sales minor.
One of the last memories I've had with Professor Quinn was when I was looking at schools and I toured High Point. He came right out of his office, and I had no intention of minoring in sales or joining the sales program, but with his tenacity and his being able to convince me, he was able to sell me in minoring in sales and being part of the selling program.
I remember that. And your parents made a big impression on me too. But that's it. It's that joy in life, waking up in the morning and and feeling that your mission today is to spread joy to somebody else, not to carry prejudice about yourself or this cross that you're dragging behind you, because everybody's got one, they just don't talk about it. So put it aside and work on making him smile. And so this has been so nice talking to you.
Amazing.
I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much, Professor Quinn.
Thank you.